Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific Northwest, from the good to the bad to the Mariners.
The sweet, sweet Mariners.
The sweet Chiefs defeating the arch rival 49ers in the Super Bowl yesterday. So, officially, the 2023 NFL season is over. You know what that makes it now? Officially the offseason, which means we can dive into some mock drafts. And drafts, huge thing for me. And we'll be diving in, doing multiples of these. This one's going to be a little bit tougher. Said it in the past, haven't watched as big of scope this year of college football as in years past. But I think I've got a pretty good gauge on team needs, players that have first round grades on them right now or close enough. And we'll get this dialed in more and more as we go along. But before we dive into that, why don't I tell you a little bit about us? If you're looking for a guy that pulled the patented mock draft beanie out of storage just for this episode, the old mock draft beanie. If you're looking for a guy like that, you're looking for a guy like me, your boy, Coach Red. You can find me on X at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real _ Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also, find us over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or two. And as my daughter says, smash that subscribe button. And if you're looking for a guy that is going to be pronouncing so many names,
That's
we
right.
will see how many he pronounces correctly. If you're ready for a mystery, so am I, and it's brought to you by Cain.
I'm guaranteeing 31 out of 32. That's what we're going with right out the rip. And yes, I'm Cain. You can find me on Twitter, Cain2406, on YouTube at Cain06, TikTok and Kick, Cain0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follow us. Do it, freaking do it.
So, layout of this, especially in any of our mock drafts, we're not going to be projecting trades. As some trades happen in the lead up, we will adjust the board accordingly. But we are going to go with the board as is. And in this one, we're going to do a predictive mock draft. So, predicting where those guys will land and a little bit of the fit for the team or the player. And for this mock draft, since Cain has watched 5 UW games this year and nothing else, he will be telling you the team picking and then the player that is chosen. And I will be doing the breakdown for every single pick. So buckle up, buckaroos. It's mock draft time.
Buckle up, buckaroos. I like it.
Dun, 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 dun. The first 2024 NFL mock draft is live. Cain, the Chicago Bears are on the clock.
And with their first pick, we have Caleb Williams out of the University of Southern California from the Trojans.
What position does he play?
He plays, the good old rock slinger, the quarterback position.
The University of South Carolina from the Trojans.
Whatever, dude.
See,
You know what?
We're already starting off hot. All right, here's the fit. Caleb Williams, coming into the year, was seen as the top quarterback prospect in this draft.
Yep.
Heisman winner the year prior, was in it for a while there. Seems like the team didn't hold up nearly as well around him. He's got incredible playmaking ability, extends the plays, tough to get down. And usually when you see some of those plays getting extended, it's typically a knock on the offensive line because additional penalties will come. He does a good job of not incurring a lot of penalties for his offensive line. And it's something that when you look at this Bears team, they've struggled to keep Justin Fields upright, and they've struggled with penalties specifically. Caleb Williams gives you a higher floor, I believe, than Justin Fields. I think they move on. I think they saw enough to take that step forward with him. This is a pick that could very well be traded in the next couple weeks. But as we sit right now, if they're sitting at number one, it's going to be Caleb Williams, the guy that's been on the top of everyone's draft board for the entire year, and he hasn't moved an inch.
Nope. No, he's not. All right. Pick number 2. We have the Commanders on the clock, and they're going with quarterback Jaden Daniels, LSU Tigers. Coach Red, what do you got for us with Jaden Daniels?
Back to back Heisman winners going back to back in the draft. Jaden Daniels is not my favorite quarterback in this draft. He's not my second favorite quarterback in this draft, but it seems as of late he is moving up boards. What he was able to do in the SEC this year, granted, there were some lesser competition that he put up some extra stats, but he's a dynamic player. This is a guy that was seen to have pro potential when he was at Arizona State under Herm Edwards. After Herm Edwards leaves Arizona State, he goes and plays for old Brian Kelly down in LSU and really made LSU a primetime watch this year. He's a guy that has a lot of tools. I think that he can have some success in this league. And I think that you go out and with Dan Quinn getting the job for the Commanders, you're only as good as your quarterback. I don't think they will love what they saw in Sam Howell. I think they could probably trade him away and maybe pick up, double dip in the quarterback market a little bit later with more of a project guy and get what you can for Sam Howell. But I think that new coach, new team, go ahead and go get your quarterback of the future in Jaden Daniels.
All right. We got the Patriots up next, picking at number 3. Also, quarterback Drake May, North Carolina Tar Heel. Coach Red, what do you got on Drake May?
Drake May is a guy that was looked at as the number 2 guy behind Caleb Williams all year at the quarterback position. With the Patriots, you're also looking at a new coach in Gerard Mayo, but I think that Mac Jones and Billy Zappi have run their course there. You need a guy under center. This is one where you could look at the wide receiver position, but I think that they have enough guys in their wide receiver room, but they don't have a good enough guy to throw them the rock. Drake May has all the height, weight, speed, intangibles that you're looking for. The production wasn't there necessarily in college. It's a little reminiscent of a pick like Josh Allen when he was at Wyoming, where the talent around him was not super high. There have been some guys that have gone into the league. One guy, Josh Downs, for the Colts this last year, who slotted in as their number 2, was his top wide receiver last year. And it was kind of what we said with Sam Howell, where Sam Howell had lost some of his playmakers in leading up to his final year at UNC. Well, Drake May also lost some of his playmakers going into his final year at UNC. This is a guy that I think will probably have a better pro career than he did a college career.
Okay. Okay. I like that. Now to pick number 4, the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock, and they're coming for wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., the Ohio State Buckeyes.
First of all, you've heard the name. His dad is
Legend.
Just a legend for the Colts. This guy's Hall of Fame bloodline. When you look at Marvin Harrison Jr., he did very well this year, and especially when you look at that, I believe it was Kyle McCord was his quarterback, who was so good that he had the starting job and transferred to Syracuse. So that tells you what you need to know about the quarterback play at the Ohio State last year. Marvin Harrison put up big numbers, Biletnikoff winner. When you look at this Arizona Cardinal team, Kyler Murray did enough to keep his job, I believe. And with your top target hitting free agency in Hollywood Brown and not much to speak of with playmakers on this field, Marvin Harrison Jr. slots in at wide receiver 1 from day one, hopefully making an impact for this Arizona Cardinal team.
All right. Now we're going to go over to LA with the Chargers with pick number 5. We're going Brock Bowers. There we go. Fixed it. Tight end, Georgia Bulldogs. Coach Ray, what do you got on Brock Bowers?
Brock Bowers is the total package when it comes to tight end. When you really look at this, he reminds me a little bit of Kyle Pitts. He reminds me a little bit of TJ Hawkinson, who were higher round draft choices. But this guy's complete. He's probably the closest thing to, I'd like to say, a George Kittle or a Gronkowski. Body type's out of control. He missed time with injury, was still voted the top tight end in college football. He probably would have been a very high draft pick. When you look at this team with Jim Harbaugh coming in and you've got Justin Herbert coming back from injury, one thing I thought of here was tackle, but the one thing that Herbert has really not had is solid tight end play. Yes, they've got guys on the outside in Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, who's hurt, and Quentin Johnston, who was a little busty last year. But it'll be interesting to see when you put a playmaker of this type that can block extremely well and can catch from the tight end position and get a lot of yards after catch, kind of do what Gronk did and bowl some people over. I think that the upside is too high to pass up for a Jim Harbaugh team, which also, when you include him in the run game, which Harbaugh will love to do, this guy gives you the best of both worlds.
All right. Over here, pick number 6 now, we got the New York Football Giants on the clock. They're going wide receiver, Roma Dunze, Washington Huskies, Coach Red. What do you got for us on Roma Dunze?
Well, I've said all year that Roma Dunze is my second wide receiver picked at the latest. I've seen a lot of mocks with another guy going ahead of him, but this is my mock draft. Guess what? Roma Dunze is going. He's not slipping past second in the wide receiver rankings. The New York Giants have had lackluster wide receiver play for years. Their top guy has been Sterling Shepard. You sprinkle in Wan'Dale Robinson. They do have Darren Waller, which it plagued a little bit with the injury bug again this year. But I think that you want to give Danny Nichols as many weapons as you can. You signed him to a 3-year deal. I don't think that they structured the contract well enough to get out of it to make a run at a quarterback here. So let's put a bona fide stud, a guy that can win inside, outside. He can lead the middle. He's very good at using body control. He high points the ball extremely well. This is a guy that will slot in to the wide receiver one role. He will be able to make this team better. You look at the Giants for years, they've been a heavy screen team. They've been a short to the line of scrimmage team. Guess what? You saw that out of Roma Dunze, but Roma Dunze can take you over the top and can really torch some corners out there, and did so against some pretty solid corners throughout the last 2 years of his college football career. Guy that's been over 1,000 yards the last 2 years and is a touchdown machine. Give me Roma Dunze with the Giants. I think it's a phenomenal fit.
Agree with that. All right, pick number 7. We're going down to Tennessee. They are going wide receiver, Malik Neighbors, LSU Tigers, Coach Red. What do you got for Malik?
The Titans are another team where you have Treylon Burks, you had D Hop last year, but there's not a lot of playmakers around Will Levis. And when you look at the impending free agency of King Henry, this is going to be a team that's also in transition. New coach here in Callahan coming from Cincinnati. And what did Cincinnati have? Three-headed monster at wide receiver. So D Hop's back. You've got Treylon Burks going into year 3. Give me Malik Neighbors. This is a guy that had a boatload of yards for LSU. I think he had about 1,700 total yards this last year. Bananas numbers. He's comes in at 6 foot. There's another guy from this wide receiving core that we'll be taking later. But this is a guy that had consistent production throughout the year. And I think that's what you need for the Tennessee Titans. They haven't had that since they had A.J. Brown, who they traded away in lieu of paying him. And I think that partly led to the downfall and departure of Mike Vrabel. Give me a playmaker for this offense in a young emerging division. When you look at the Colts, relatively young team right in the playoff mix, the Jaguars, relatively young team right in the playoff mix, and the Houston Texans that won a playoff game, relatively young team in the playoff mix. You need to go get playmakers to keep up with the offenses that are starting to emerge in your own division, and I think Malik Neighbors is a good step in that direction.
All right, pick number 8, going to Atlanta, and the Falcons are on the clock. They're going Terrion Arnold, cornerback, Alabama Crimson Tide. What do you got for us, Coach Red?
So the crazy thing is going into this year, Kool-Aid McKinstry was all the talk for the top cornerback. Terrion Arnold ends up surpassing him and having a better year. He's currently my cornerback number one. And when you look at this Falcons team, I think they could use a little upgrade defensively. Who's their head coach?
Uh, Raheem Morris.
What does Raheem Morris specialize in? The secondary.
Yes.
So go ahead and get me a stud secondary type player. He has weapons on offense that were underutilized in Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London. You can figure out the quarterback situation a little bit later or address it in free agency. Go ahead and get me this defense because this defense played above average this last year. And I think they did that with subpar cornerback play. So go ahead and get me a guy on this team, which your new head coach really specializes in coaching and really put this defense over the top. Because if you can hang defensively with the likes of the Saints, because you look at what the Bucks did in making the playoffs. They just had a little bit more offensive firepower and their defense held up just good enough. I think the Falcons and Saints are right up there with the top defenses in this league, in this division. So go ahead and give me a guy that makes them that much better. And I think that with utilizing your playmakers better offensively, they can make that jump to potentially be a playoff team next year.
All right, I like it. Pick number 9, we're going back to Chicago. They're going Joe Alt, tackle, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. What can you tell me about good old Joe Alt?
Joe Alt, number one tackle in my book. When you look at Justin Fields the last couple of years, most sacked quarterback in the league. Yes, they've had some guys. I think it is Braxton Jones that stepped up for them this year and was starting at left tackle. He was a 5th-round pick in last year's draft. I want to upgrade with top-tier talent. If you're going to have Caleb Williams back there, you've got Tevin Jenkins on this line, and oh gosh, the guy from Georgia last year. Can't remember his name right now. Sorry, it escapes me. But go ahead and give me more protection for the franchise quarterback that you're putting on the field. This is a team that has struggled with offensive line play for the last 3 years. I think that you saw what they can do during the stretch and insert a better offensive line. Their defense can hold up enough. You need to get more points in this division when you're going up against the Packers, Detroit Lions, and who knows what you get out of the Vikings coming forward. But go ahead and strengthen this line. That's what I'd like to see the Bears do with their second first-round pick.
I like it. I like it. All right, we're going to the other New York team. We're going to the Jets here at pick number 10. They're going Olumiwa Fashanu, Penn State Nittany Lions. Coach
Not
Fred,
terrible.
what do you got?
This is a guy that's been jockeying with Joe Alt for the top tackle. And when you look at this Jets team, their biggest deficiency has been left tackle. They drafted Mekhi Becton thinking he would be the left tackle of the future. He did not live up to the billing. They've been, for the last couple of years, they've been rolling out, damn near 40-year-old Dwayne Brown when healthy at left tackle. You've got Aaron Rodgers coming back from injury. You're making a push in a division that has 2 playoff teams with the Dolphins and the Bills from last year. You're expecting the team to take a step forward with Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers is best when he is in a clean pocket and he can improvise a little bit. And to do that, you need a strong left tackle, which they currently do not have on the roster. Go ahead and give me best tackle available to protect Rodgers' blind side.
Not as bad as I thought I was going to murder it, but hey, that's good. All right, pick number 11, we're going to Minnesota. Big help from coming into free agency, losing their biggest guy on defense. They're going Dallas Turner, edge, Alabama Crimson Tide. What do you got for me, Coach?
This team was one of the hardest to pick. Is Kirk Cousins going to be healthy, and is he going to re-sign in free agency? Who's your starting running back? Who do you have outside of Jordan? Like your room's okay in the pass catchers. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson. Defensively is where this team has struggled and had big letdowns in years past. Danielle Hunter is a guy that is poised to hit free agency, and there is a close to 0% chance that he will be coming back to the Vikings unless they throw an ungodly amount of number at him. But I think with how many holes they have, they're going to have to get creative on how they use that cap. Go ahead and get me the top edge in my mind in this draft to go help solidify this defense in the transition from Daniil Hunter.
All right. Going up to the Mile High City here at 12. We're going JJ McCarthy, quarterback, Michigan Wolverines. What do you got for me on JJ McCarthy?
I don't like JJ McCarthy.
I don't know anything about, like, show me
but
the tape. That's
the
all I
tape
gotta
isn't
say.
great, but everyone's in love with the potential and the promise. And if there's a guy that I think would fall in love with him, it'd be Sean Payton. I think that they
Mhm.
are going to be moving on from Russell Wilson, and I think that they are going to need that quarterback. With JJ McCarthy, I think that they like Jared Stidham enough for this squad that I think that they would keep him around and
Mhm.
potentially be that transition guy if JJ needs a little bit more seasoning. Because although he ran a pro style offense in college, he wasn't the guy that was making that offense churn. It was the running game primarily and sprinkling in the pass game. I think that you're going to look for Sean Payton to get his next Drew Brees type player. And I think that you can see the glimpses of it with JJ McCarthy. I just don't see it enough to feel comfortable, but I've heard that he could easily be a top half of the draft guy. I had to find a spot that needed a quarterback, so I went Denver Broncos, JJ McCarthy, even though
You,
I wouldn't make that pick.
and I could agree with you on that one. That everything that I've heard about JJ McCarthy is everybody loves the athletic profile that he has. He can do all the things that you need him to do. I just think he needs some fine tuning. And why not with a guy who fine tuned one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen in Drew Brees?
Well, the
So,
other thing is you saw a little bit this year with Russell Wilson, the hard nosed coaching that you saw from Sean Payton more so than in years past. Well, Jim Harbaugh is a hard nosed coach at
yeah,
that area, so I think that he could take his ass chewing pretty good too.
I agree. All right, let's jump down to number 13. Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock. They're going Tylese Fuaga, tackle, Oregon State Beavers.
What I like about this pick is you've got Colton Miller starting at left tackle. I do know that they need a quarterback. I think this is the spot that Russell Wilson finds in free agency. He wanted to go to Vegas before. I think with Pierce, I think that those two would really play off each other pretty well. And with what they got with Jimmy G, who was oft injured, you don't really have as much of those concerns with Russell Wilson. And Aiden O'Connell did not do enough down the stretch to show me that he could be the quarterback of the future. So go ahead and insert Russell Wilson. But their biggest hole has been right tackle. Fuaga is a right tackle by trade and a damn good one. This guy can great in the run game, and he is above average at pass protection. I think that if they do not go quarterback here, which they very well could, I think that this might be one of the best team fits overall in this draft.
All right, I like it. I like the breakdown of it. Sounded all great. Viewers are going to love it. Let's go to pick number 14. Down in the Bayou, we're going Jared Verse, Edge,
Versi.
Versi. All right, I messed another one up. Oopsie poopsie. Edge, Florida State Seminoles.
So Jared Versi was a guy that could have come out last year, was looked at as an end of the first round guy. I think that he's right in the mix. We talked about Dallas Turner already. I think it's him, Versi, and Latu that are guys that are kind of seen towards the top of this edge rusher class. When you look at the Saints as a whole, I think that they have a they have enough weapons offensively for me to try and go get a wide receiver here and force that hand. Like Derek Carr's back. One thing that they've struggled with is getting consistent pass rush opposite of Cameron Jordan. And I think that Versi has that upside that you like to see. He's a very solid player, can play the run decently and above average, but he's nuanced in the pass rushing game. I think that seeing those double teams go to Cameron Jordan, how often he can even beat those. Getting a rookie that can slot in opposite of him, I think will really help with the development of this defense because their back end is pretty stout, and I like their linebacking core. They need a little bit more juice on the defensive line. I think Jared Versey gives you that.
Alrighty. Shut down to number 15. We're going to Indianapolis with the Colts here. Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver, LSU Tigers.
You're looking at Anthony Richardson back healthy this year, and right now their number one wide receiver, Michael Pittman Jr., is a pending free agent. I would expect them to throw a franchise tag on him, but your number two is Josh Downs, who's okay but not great, and Alec Pierce is
Yes.
your other guy on this roster. Brian Thomas Jr. went out and was over 1,000 yards for LSU. I think he clocked in with 11 touchdowns. But the one thing I like, if you don't get Michael Pittman back, or if you do, he's 6'4", 215. He's got big body size. So if you're able to stack the Twin Towers, Pittman is also a guy that clocks in, I think about 6'2", 6'3". You've got some guys with some size that, although Richardson for me isn't the most polished passer, those guys give you a bigger catch radius to make up for some mistakes in the throwing game. This I want to put as many weapons with Shane Steichen and crew. You've got Jonathan Taylor Thomas back in the fold. And when you look at this team as a whole, I want to go get more guys that can make plays. And although they were itching at the close, I don't think that Josh Downs and Alex Pierce give you enough as a number two. Go find me a real number two and slot those guys in the 3 and 4 spot to make this a more balanced team.
All right, let's jump to the hometown squad, the Seattle Seahawks at 16, going Troy Fattanu, tackle, Washington Huskies. Break it down, coach.
It's the Husky that you didn't expect me to draft with Brian Grubb in the fold. I think with this team, you look at it right now, all three of your starting interior offensive linemen, when you look at the likes of Damian Lewis, Evan Brown, and Phil Haynes, they're all pending free agents. When you look at what the Ravens have done well, they've had a great offensive line and they win in the trenches. Go and get me Fantanu to play next to Charles Cross on that left side. Fantanu, left tackle in college, size limitations probably bump him inside. He's extremely athletic. So being able to pull, and that's the one thing with Grubb that they run power, they run zone. So having a versatile offensive lineman that allowed 2 sacks in 3+ years of starting in college football, this guy is an absolute stud. And when you look at Mike McDonald, I think that he is going to want to solidify the trenches even more. I think this is a huge step to open up the run lanes for K9 and Zach Charbonneau and protect the passer in Geno Smith.
I like it. All right, let's jump over to number 17 here with the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock. They are going with Jackson Powers Johnson, center, Oregon State or Oregon Ducks.
With this pick, when I looked at a bunch of draft needs for the Jaguars, it was their interior offensive line. Jackson Powers Johnson settled into center this year for the Ducks and was phenomenal for them. He was a guy that really stood out at the Senior Bowl. And he gives you versatility because he can play guard and center, whether they want to bump their incumbent center out to guard or start him at guard, move him into center after a little bit. He gives you that versatility. This is a team that needs to keep Trevor Lawrence upright and open holes for Travis Etienne. I think that addressing that interior offensive line is key for this team. I think that they are young and fly around the ball defensively. And to put more youth on that defense, I think they would better be served to find that in free agency. Go ahead, keep him upright, let Trevor Lawrence be able to wine and dine, if you will, and then open up some holes for ETN to really make this offense kick it into that second, third gear.
All right, pick 18. We're going with the Bengals. They're going with Jerzon Newton, nose tackle out of Illinois. The Fighting Illini.
So the Bengals are another team that's a little tough to gauge because they've got pending free agents in T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and I don't think both will be back. I did not find a wide receiver that I loved here, and I think that the ultimate guy, if he somehow falls, is Brock Bowers, would make this team otherworldly. But I feel pretty solid about their line. I don't love their right tackle situation, but I don't have another right tackle that I would take here. When you look at this defense, uh, Gino Ariama does a phenomenal job of playing to his defensive strengths. You saw that during the postseason runs the previous 2 years, excluding this year, of the Bengals. And they're losing a big piece in DJ Reader. He's been oft injured and getting older. Go ahead and give me the biggest impact interior defensive line men in this draft. The Illini have been putting guys into the league on the defensive side of the ball in the likes of Spoon, Kirby Joseph, and this is just another one to add into the first round that really I think fits well for what this Cincinnati team needs, especially when you look at a division that likes to run the ball a lot. Nick Chubb will be back. The Ravens are going to run the ball with a cast of characters. And then you've got Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, who were both 1,000-yard backs this last year. Give me a guy that can help stuff the run and create a little bit of pressure from the interior to slot in next on the inside of Sam Hubbard. And oh man,
It's just, no, it's not a side.
yeah, I've Trey Hendrickson. There we
Yep,
go.
there you go.
Found
Like
it.
it.
Like their best defensive player. Let me blank on that real quick.
All right, let's go to pick number 19. The other LA team, the Rams. They're going to go Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa Hawkeyes.
So with Cooper DeJean, he's a guy that they've floated him going to safety, but the dude is, in my mind, one of the top two corners that is available in this draft. What is one area that the Rams have needed help at? Corner.
Secondary.
Since they traded away Ramsey, this has been a little bit of a hole. So you insert Cooper John, who played in one of the most stout defenses in all of college football and was the standout guy. Plus, he gives you plus value in the return game. Yes, I know they have Tutu Atwell, who's been a solid punt returner, but having Cooper DeJean is that second guy on kick return. I think you can win a little bit more in special teams, but he also gets you a bona fide cornerback number one. And I think that could really help this Rams team.
All right, pick number 20. We're going to the Steel City with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going Michael Penix Jr., cornerback, Washington Huskies.
I think that they are moving on from Kenny Pickett. As of earlier today, they let go of Mitch Trubisky. When Kenny Pickett was healthy, they rode the hot hand in Mason Rudolph, who started the year as QB3 for this team. That tells you all you need to know about this quarterback room. It is subpar. I think that if you go and draft Michael Penix Jr. here, we've seen it, we've talked about it. The guy is an absolute stud. Love him. But one thing is you need to keep a clean pocket. I think that if you make the pick, whatever team, you need to have a solid offensive line in front of Michael Penix Jr. to keep the pocket as clean as possible. Have the Steelers done that recently? It's been hit or miss, and they also cut Chigi Okorafor, who was a starting tackle for them for the last couple of years to save about $19 million on the cap. So insert Michael Penix Jr. He'll be the starter from day one. I think Kenny Pickett slots into the number 2 spot. I think they've seen enough from Mr. Pickett to make a change. And best quarterback available for me at this spot is Michael Penix Jr.
Okay. All right, pick 21. We're going down to Miami. Latu, Edge, UCLA Bruins.
So Latu, former Husky, Want to throw that out there until we medically retired him, and then UCLA said, we had Jalen Phillips here, and we unmedically retired him and made him a first rounder. Come on down. This guy is a dynamic edge rusher from the linebacker position. When you look at this Dolphins team, they were fine on drafting Jalen Phillips from this school coming off of some medical concerns. And I think Latu did a good job at the Senior Bowl to increase his draft stock. What I like about this, yes, you have Bradley Chubb, but you also have Cameron Van Ginkle, who is a pending free agent, and you have Jalen Phillips coming off of injury. With this Dolphin team, you have enough firepower on the offensive side to light up the scoreboard. What they do very well is creating sudden change and negative plays. Could that change a little bit with a new defensive coordinator? Yes, it very well could. But that guy's coming down from Baltimore, who is very disruptive as well. Go ahead and bring in Latu to really help bolster this defense for when Jalen Phillips is getting healthy, and just create havoc when you have Chubb, Latu, and Phillips all on the field. Maybe using one of them inside, not Latu. He's the most slightest of frame of the bunch, but go be disruptive on defense. And I think Latu gives you that edge for the Dolphins.
All right. Pick number 22 up in the city of brotherly love. The Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. They're going to go with Nate Wiggins, cornerback, Clemson Tigers.
This is a guy that's moved up draft boards quite a bit, but where I really looked at this Eagles team is their downfall defensively. And one guy that really fell off was James Bradbury, who had been a stellar piece for them in this secondary. I think you need to have someone opposite of Darius Slay that can play, and
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and give me the upside of Nate Wiggins. I know that Clemson corners have not fared the best in the NFL, but this defense needs a big infusion of talent. And I expect them to try and go get some guys that have some experience probably for the secondary, but if they strike out, Nate Wiggins is a guy who has really improved his draft stock this year, and I think could be a natural fit for the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, pick number 23. We're going with the Houston Texans are on the clock. They're going to go with Byron Murphy II, nose tackle, Texas Longhorns.
This is a guy that was seen as one of the best run stuffers in the league. And with that Texas defensive line as a whole, they were very stout. When you look at the Houston Texans, you get enamored by their offense, and their defense was better than expected this year. But when you got the likes of Will Anderson on the edge, I want someone that can come in and be a little bit disruptive, but also be able to really plug up holes. Byron Murphy at times for this Texas team was the best player on the field, and they had a lot of good players on that team. Go ahead and give me this for a young emerging team to get tougher in the trenches.
Pick 24, we're going out to Dallas. They're going J.C. Latham, tackle, Alabama Crimson Tide.
So with the Cowboys, they do have some holes that are popping up on this team. I believe it's Tyron Smith, who's getting older,
Mm-hmm.
going into a contract year, finally had another good year that reminded you of why he's a player that's been around this Cowboy team forever. Do they want to make the investment and pay him, or do they want to go to the well, to a place that has brought a lot of guys into the league that have been successful at the tackle position? JC Latham was the left tackle, one of the tops in college football, and I think this is a guy plug and play, starting left tackle right off the rip, and then being able to give yourself a little bit more cap flexibility as you've seen the left tackle market really creep up in contracts. I think going and getting younger at this position by a guy that has multiple years of starting experience in the SEC is the way to go.
All right, pick number 25, Green Bay Packers. They're going with Tyler Guyton, tackle, Oklahoma Sooners.
And this is another team that has another older left tackle in David Bakhtiari. How much does he have left in the tank? I don't think it's a ton. Tyler Guyton is a guy that played pretty well at Oklahoma, but really kind of showed up at the Senior Bowl. This is a guy that is massive. I think he clocks in at 6'7", super athletic. It's really been rocketing him up the boards. So go ahead and get me to a Green Bay Packers team that is very intriguing. I think they need help offensively. So,
Mhm.
like I've said, trench work will help. With Bakhtiari getting older, has been injured, go ahead and get me their next left tackle of the future in Tyler Guyton.
All right, let's jump down into Tampa. They're at pick 26. They're going Braylon Trice, edge, Washington Huskies.
So, what I wanted to do here is I know that the Bucks love drafting University of Washington players or
Yeah.
acquiring them. Currently, they've got Vita Vea, Joe Tryon, Kate Otten on this team. So go ahead and give me Braylon Trice, who you're looking at this team. Shaq Barrett isn't as explosive as he was off the edge. What you've seen with Braylon Trice is his ability to pressure the quarterback. What I'd like to see, especially when you look into the NFL, is a more versatile pass rush. Braylon Trice does it with power and footwork. What he needs to do is get a little bit more finesse in his game. I think this is a good team for him to land on, a team that has success. He has guys on this team that he's been around or has seen strolling around at his alma mater. Braylon Trice, I think, is a bang up pick. You saw what he did against Texas to really get after the quarterback a little bit more by recording 2 sacks. Go ahead and give me Braylon Trice to the University of Washington Buccaneers.
All right, let's jump to pick 27. You have the Arizona Cardinals back on the board here, and they are going to go Quinion Mitchell, cornerback, Toledo Rockets.
So with the Cardinals, we went with an offensive pick of Marvin Harrison Jr. to give Kyler Murray a weapon. Well, Gannon, their head coach, is a defensive minded head coach.
Mhm.
You can't name me one of their starting cornerbacks. They were the last game the Seahawks played. I still can't name you one of their starting cornerbacks. And as that game got along, you just saw those cornerbacks get lost. Go ahead and
Yes.
give me a guy that's been rocketing up since the Senior Bowl. This guy is a pass breakup machine. He did it all Senior Bowl. Small school guy that gets that rise. And I think Quinion Mitchell is a good spot. Now you really are attacking the outside edges for a team that wasn't explosive necessarily offensively and didn't stop as many explosive plays as they needed to defensively.
All right, let's go
That
down
was
to
a
pick.
great breakdown. I don't
That
know if
was
you
a
know that.
that's a fantastic one. Golf clap for you, sir. All right, let's jump to pick number 28. You got Buffalo on the clock. They're going to go with Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver, Texas Longhorns.
Gabe Davis, pending free agent. I don't think that they're going to have the cap to bring him back. So go give me a guy that has played in the college football playoff for 2 teams in Georgia and Texas. Huge target,
Mm-hmm.
big play guy. What was Gabe Davis? Big target, big play guy.
Flight risk, though. He was a flight risk.
Yeah, but I think that what you get here with Mitchell is a little bit more consistency. This
Yes.
is a guy that has produced in multiple programs. I think that with his size, that will be very intriguing to this team when you look at the construction of Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, Stephon Diggs, insert Adonai Mitchell. It's going to be a tough team offensively.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you've seen over the last few years is Stephon Diggs starts the year very, very hot, and then he starts trailing, and then it's boomer bust, basically. You had the big come on of Dalton Kincaid this year, really propelled that offense in a positive direction, really put them in the playoff mix. And then, Gabe Davis is your always boomer bust guy. You never know if he's going to go off or have 2 yards on the day.
Or
So, as
zero.
you said, you need to get consistency. And from what I've seen of Adonai Mitchell, the dude is a baller out there. So, I like the pick there. Let's jump to number 29, the Detroit Lions, improving their secondary with Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback, Alabama Crimson Tides.
When you look at this Lions team, they've done a great job in free agency and the draft at addressing a lot of holes. One area that I would have liked to look at was interior offensive line. I did not think that the value was there. Another place they need help at is the secondary. Kool-Aid McKinstry has all the tools that you want out of a cornerback. This is a former five-star recruit, started early on in Alabama, but did not have the best year last year and has caused him to slide a little bit. You could have seen him go as in the top 10 preseason. He slid a little bit here. But I think with Aaron Glenn being your defensive coordinator and a secondary type guy, go ahead and get me a guy in the secondary that has all the tools that he can coach up to really be a plus positive for this secondary, which was one of their weak points this year. I also kind of looked at it. Was there a good edge guy that I could go get? If Braylon Trice would have been a little bit lower and slipped through, Braylon Trice on one side and uh, Aiden Hutchinson on the other, similar type players. Maybe Aiden could teach him a few finesse moves, but that's not the case. Go ahead and get me the toolsy cornerback that I think has the physical ability to do well in the NFL to go on a young emerging team.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, pick number 30, you're Baltimore. They're going to go with Troy Franklin, wide receiver, Oregon Ducks.
This one was kind of tough for me because I don't know if Troy Franklin makes it into the first round, but I like his fit here. When you look at what they got out of Odell Beckham Jr., who's a true outside receiver, you didn't get much. I think you got about 400, 300, 400 yards and 3 TDs on the air. When you look at what Lamar Jackson does best, he can hit some of those bombs, but he's a guy that loves hitting the middle of the field. I think that you get a little bit of Zay Flowers with Troy Franklin, where he has inside out versatility. He can make the big plays, but when you look at this is a guy that's caught passes from Bo Nix this last year. Bo Nix threw a lot of balls short to the line of scrimmage. So I think that you get a similar type package for him with the Ravens. And I think that being able to get more of those zippy guys going across the middle, I think if you put this is kind of weird because I'm telling the Ravens to implore a New York Giants style wide receiving core on shorter, smaller yak guys. But I think Troy Franklin also has the ability to play outside to get you that deep ball when needed.
All right, let's jump to number 31 here with the San Francisco 49ers. They're going to take Amarius Mims, tackle, Georgia Bulldog.
This is a guy that also was a little bit banged up this year. And I think that when healthy, he's one of the top tackles in this class. So I think that's why he slides a little bit here because of health concerns. But you have Trent Williams, who is an awfully big cap hit, and who knows how close he is to retirement. The dude's been in the league forever. This is your guy that you could start at right tackle to start if needed, because I think that when you look at this 49ers team, that's an area that could be improved. Heck, maybe he could even slot in at left guard for Aaron Banks, who did not look great in the Super Bowl. This guy is your heir apparent to Trent Williams, whether he hangs it up now or waits another year, but it can't be too far away. This is a team that lives and dies by establishing the run game and excelling in that. And having a strong left tackle is a key to that. Give me a Marius Mims to the 49ers.
All righty, let's go to the last pick. The Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champions, are on the clock. Pick 32. They're going with Keon Coleman, wide receiver, Florida State Seminoles. What do you got on him?
With Keon Coleman, his production wasn't stellar this year. And some of that you could probably attribute to Jordan Travis getting hurt, having a season ending injury. This is a guy that has all the size that you want to see, and he has big playability. So when you look at what Patrick Mahomes does best, extend plays and makes big plays. This is a guy that is pretty sure-handed. He's a guy that has size. He's going to be your big-time guy on the outside. You've got the likes of Sky Moore and Rashee Rice that are a little bit shorter, stockier, roam the middle of the field type guys. When you have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who was a liability at times, especially on those big plays and not coming down with those big catches. I think Keon Coleman is a guy that could fill that role. You could save a little bit of cash towards the cap because this is another team that is going to be tight to the cap for the whole year.
Right. All right. And that does it.
And that wraps up mock draft number 1. I guarantee you that everyone after this will be better and better and better. But it's mock draft season, baby.
That's right.
It's that time of year, and we're gonna keep chugging these out. You'll probably see at least 3 more before that April 25th start of the NFL draft. But before then, why don't you hop on over to social media? Give us a follow. You can find me, your boy, Coach Red, on X at the Real Coach Red, on Instagram at the Real _ Coach Red, TikTok at the Real Coach Red. Also, find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or two, and smash that subscribe button. Cain, where you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Cain2406, on YouTube at Cain06, TikTok and Cain0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follow us. Do it, freaking do it.
And as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.